Welcome back, and in this session we are gonna demo on how to set up a transit gateway so that multiple VPCs present inside our AWS account can communicate with each other. Let's have a quick look onto the setup. So here we are having an AWS account, and in this AWS account we are gonna set up multiple VPCs. So we are gonna set up 3 VPCs, which starts from test VPC 1, 2 and 3. And each VPC we will have a subnet, and inside the subnet we will spin an EC2 instance. So once we're done with the VPC setup, then we are gonna set up a transit gateway, and then this transit gateway we are gonna attach with each VPC. After attaching the VPC, we are gonna perform a test where we are gonna access one of the EC2 in one VPC and try to access the another EC2 instance running into another VPC so that we know our transit gateway is working. This is my AWS console, and let's start setting up the VPC 1. So this is the home page of my AWS console, and here in the search box type VPC, click on the VPC, and here click on this create VPC, and here choose the option for a VPC 1, and here you can enter the name. So I'm just gonna put test VPC 1 over here. IP range, so I'm just gonna go with 12.0.0.0, and after that I'm just gonna put 16 over here. So I will have around 65,000 possible IP addresses. Tenancy, I'm just gonna stick with default, and tag and key value name, I'm just gonna go with the default one, and after that click on create VPC. Go to the VPC homepage and check. So here you can see our test VPC 1 has been created. After creating the VPC, let's take a look onto the diagram once again. So just to make the things simple, I have just removed all the components which we are not gonna create at the moment. So if you compare this diagram previously, so this is our ideal diagram, but right now I'm working on the VPC 1. So now we have created the VPC 1. The next thing which we need to create is the internet gateway. So again, go back to your AWS console, and in the left navigation menu, you will find an option for an internet gateway. So click on it. And here click on create internet gateway. So here I will put internet gateway abbreviation and type test VPC 1. So I'm just putting the suffix VPC 1 so that I will be able to identify that this internet gateway belongs to VPC 1. So that's the reason I'm attaching a suffix with the VPC 1. And after that, click on create internet gateway. And here you can see our internet gateway has been created. So this is the internet gateway which we have just created, but this is in a detached mode. So we need to attach it to our VPC 1. So click on this ID, go to action, click on attach VPC, and here you will find the test VPC 1. So click on it and click attach internet gateway. The next thing which we need to create is the subnet over here. So now we have created VPC, we have created internet gateway, so we will create a subnet. So go back to your AWS console over here, and here in the left hand navigation menu, you will find the option for creating subnet. So click on subnet and click on create subnet. Here there are default subnet, but we are not gonna use those one. We are gonna create our own subnet. And as soon as you create a subnet, then it will ask like in which VPC you wanna create. So as you remember that we have created a VPC 1, so we are gonna select the VPC 1 over here. And here we need to enter the name of our subnet. So I'm just gonna put test subnet, and I'm gonna suffix it with VPC 1 so that I can identify that it belongs to VPC 1. And then I'm just gonna put 1A. 1A is our availability zone. So here in the section, you will find availability zone. So I'm just gonna choose Europe Central 1A. And after that, we need to specify the IP ranges for this particular subnet. So remember, we are just working with this IP range of our VPC. So we are going to use the similar range for our subnet. So I'm just going to copy this IP range. I'm just going to paste it over here. And here I'm just going to choose 1 over here. And I'm just going to make it 24 so that I have 256 IPs within my subnet. So I'm just going to create a one subnet over here, and this subnet we are going to make it as a public subnet that I'll show you in a moment. So after that, just click on create subnet, and here you can see our subnet has been created. But in ideal scenario, we will not have only one subnet, but we will have a multiple subnet, like a public subnet as well as private subnet. But this is just a demo, that's why I'm just creating only one subnet. So just keep in mind. Now we have created the subnet. The next thing which we need to create is our route table. So again, go back to your AWS console, and in the left navigation menu, you will find an option for a route table. So click on the route table over here. And here, these are default route tables. So we are not going to touch one, but we are going to create a new route table. So click on route table. And here again, we are just going to choose RT for route table abbreviation. And then we are going to use test VPC1 suffix. And after that, we need to choose the VPC, because if you take a look onto the diagram, so we are working within our VPC. So every resource we are creating within our VPC1. So this route table also belongs to this particular VPC1. So here in the drop down, we are going to choose test VPC1. So select that one. And I'm just going to put the tags default as it is. I'm just not going to change anything. So click on create route table. Alright, so here you can see our route table has been created. Now, after creating the route table, there is also one more thing. We need to create the routes over here, and also we need to associate the subnet. So this route table we have created, but we need to associate this route table with subnet, and also we need to create a route for the internet gateway so that we will have access to internet for this particular subnet. So for that, again, go back to your AWS console, and this is the route table which we have created, that is RT test VPC1. So click on this route table ID, and here into the subnet association, go and click on edit subnets, and here you will find the subnet which we have just created. So select this subnet and click on save association. Now we have associated our subnet with our route table. So here you can see this is our route table, and this is our subnet which we have associated. So here you can see the subnet association. The next thing which we need to create a route. So go to the routes over here and click on edit routes. And here we need to click on add routes. So here we will choose 000 because we want to have an internet access within our subnet, because this is our public subnet. So that's why I'm creating this route. And this means I can access this public subnet from anywhere, this particular IP address. Here, then we need to provide a resource which is responsible for providing the internet access. So that is our internet gateway, and which we have already created, which is internet gateway test VPC1. So select that one and click on save changes. Remember, we are working in a public subnet, but if you are creating a private subnet, then you don't need to create this route with our internet gateway, because private subnet doesn't need an internet gateway, but instead you need to set up a net gateway. Alright, so now we have created our route table also. Now after creating our route table, the next resource which we need to create is our EC2 instance from this diagram. So let's go back to our AWS console. And here you can see this is the homepage of our AWS console. In the search box, type EC2, click on this EC2 instance over here, and click on this orange button to launch an instance. And here we need to enter the name of our EC2 instance. So I'm just gonna put EC2 test VPC1. I'm just suffixing it with the VPC1 so that I can identify this instance that it belongs to VPC1. So that's the only reason I'm just putting this name. Select the base operating system. So I'm just going to choose Ubuntu, and I'm just going to stick with instance type, that is t2.micro, which is a small EC2 instance. Then we need to create a key pair. We need to create a public and the private key, and that you can do at the same time using just this link, that is create a new key pair. So I'm just going to click on it, and here I'm just going to type EC2 test VPC1, and I'm just going to suffix it with the key and click on create key pair. And here you can see it has downloaded the key for you, and also it has attached the key for your EC2 instance. Okay, so we are just going to use this EC2 instance key later when we are going to perform the SSH into our EC2 instance. Okay, let's move ahead. The next thing which we need to set up is the network setting, which is really important. So click on edit over here. So first of all, let's take a look onto the diagram once again. So here you will see this EC2 instance we are creating inside the VPC, and the name of the VPC is test VPC1. So again, go back to your AWS console. And here in the drop down, you just need to choose the VPC1. Select that one. And in the subnet, as you remember, we have created one public subnet. So that's the subnet which we need to select it over here. But in case if you have created a multiple subnet, then there will be multiple subnets which will pop up over here. So just choose the suitable one, the one which you have created. Next thing, auto assign public IP. So yes, we need to enable it because this is going to be inside our public subnet. So that's why I'm enabling the public IP. Security group. So by default, they have the security group SSH22 enabled. That's so that we can SSH into our EC2 instance, but we need to add one more security group, and that I'm just gonna enable it for HTTP. So that any HTTP request comes to our EC2 instance, then those requests are entertained. Those should not be get rejected. And I should allow it from anywhere, so we can access this EC2 instance from anywhere in the world. All right, so now we have created the security group. The next thing which we need to see is the storage. So I'm just gonna stick with 8 gigs. And after that, in the advanced detail, this is one more important thing. So we are just gonna use the user data. So user data is the section where you can write down your shell script for installing certain packages. So here I'm just gonna install the Apache. So I'll just copy the script from my notepad. So here you can see this is the script for installing the Apache. So the user data section is used to install certain packages onto your EC2 instance when you're trying to set up it for the first time. So here what it will do, it will just update the package manager. It is going to install the Apache, and after that it is going to update the index.html page, which we will access later on of our Apache. And here it will print the host name. I'm just going to show this home page also after we set up our EC2 instance, and after that we are just gonna restart the Apache. All right, so after that, once we have done this setup, then click on launch instance, and it will take a couple of minutes to get it up and running. So go to EC2 dashboard and click on instance running, and just wait for a bit. So I'll be back once this instance is up and running. Now, as you can see, my instance is up and running, and you can verify this instance state, which is green and running. So click on this instance ID, and here you can see all the details. So this is the private IP, which is 12.0.1.255. But we are not concerned about private IP bus, but we need to access our public IP. So just copy this public IP from here, go to the new window and paste it over here. So here you can see the IP address and the host name details of my EC2 instance. So this is the private IP which has been shown over here. So this is the home page of my Apache, which I have just installed using the user data. Let's have a look onto our setup once again. So here you can see our VPC1 is ready, and we have provision, or we have set up all the resource which is needed. Now the next thing is we need to set up the VPC2 and VPC3. So VPC2 and VPC3 setup are gonna be exactly similar. So I'm just not gonna show the same setup or same step again, because it will be boring for you. But what you need to do when you are setting up the VPC2 and VPC3, just follow the same step which I have followed in setting up the VPC1, and only suffix it with the VPC2. So you just need to create the VPC, Internet Gateway, route table, subnet, and EC2. Just follow all the steps which I have covered inside the VPC1 setup. Just remember, try to suffix it with the VPC2 so that you will be able to identify those VPC and those EC2 instances later. One more quick note which I forgot to tell you before creating the transit gateway is the IP ranges of your VPC2 and VPC3. So for test VPC1, we have used 12.0.0.0/24 and 16 for subnet and VPC. So here in the VPC2, you cannot use the same IP ranges. So you need to change it. So for just to simplicity, I will be using 13.0.0.16 for VPC and 13.0.1.0 for 20/24 for subnet. Similarly, I will be using the 14 series and 14 series for subnet. So just keep in mind, you need to keep some different IP ranges for your VPC2 and VPC3, and same goes with the VPC2 subnet as well as VPC3 subnet. So just make sure that you put the correct IP ranges before creating those VPC2 and VPC3. Let's go to our AWS console and create our transit gateway. So I'm just going to open my AWS console. So here in the search box, type VPC, go to your VPC dashboard. And here in the left navigation menu, go all the way down, and here you will find the transit gateways. So click on this transit gateway over here, this link, and here you will find the dashboard for your transit gateway. Here I have not created any transit gateway, so that's why the list is empty. I'm just going to click on create transit gateway and put a name. So I'm just going to put transit gateway TG, that's the abbreviation, and I'm just going to simplicity, I'm just going to put VPC1, VPC2, VPC3. This is just a demo, that's why I'm using this naming convention, but it is not gonna be the same for in your case, and we don't use this kind of a naming convention in our production environment. So just keep this thing as a demo purpose only. All right. So description, I will put the transit gateway for VPC 1, VPC 2 and VPC 3. All right. ASN, so this is a Amazon Side Autonomous System number. So this is just an route which we need to put. If you don't put anything, then AWS is going to assign to you. So what I'll do, I'll just not going to put any number over here, because this is the route identification. So you need to put some kind of a route identification, so that when we create our transit gateway, so VPC will be able to find that route based on the number, and then they will be able to navigate and communicate within the VPC. So that's the theory behind it. But let's just keep it. And if you want to keep it, then I think you can keep it 65412. I don't recall the exact number, but we will get to know once we create our transit gateway, because AWS is gonna create for us. All right, so configure cross account sharing option. So I'm not gonna choose this option, because I'm just working within my account. I'm not going for a cross account setup, so that's why I just keep it optional. The CIDR for transit gateway is also optional, so I'm not going to touch that one, and I'm just going to go and click on create transit gateway. And here you can see it's in pending state, so it will take a couple of minutes or maybe more to set it up. So I'll be back once this transit gateway state is up and running. After a few minutes, my transit gateway is set, and here you can see the state which shows available. So now my transit gateway has been set up. Let's go back to our diagram and see what the next component which we need to create. So here our transit gateway is there, but still our VPCs are not associated or attached with my transit gateway. So the next thing which I'm just going to do, I'm just going to create an attachment. So this transit gateway is attached to VPC 1, VPC 2 and VPC 3. So that's the next step which we need to do. So let's go back to our AWS console. And to create the transit gateway attachment, again go to the left navigation menu. In the transit gateway section, you will find an option for a transit gateway attachment. So click on this transit gateway attachment over here. And here this list is empty because we have not created any transit gateway attachment. So click on create a transit gateway attachment. And here we need to key in the name, and now we need to create the attachment based on each VPC. So we have a 3 VPC and we have a 1 transit gateway. So let's create for the first VPC. So I'm just gonna see transit gateway attachment VPC 1. The transit gateway, here we need to specify the transit gateway ID. Remember, we have only 1 transit gateway. So here is the transit gateway name and the ID which we have just created. So select that one. Attachment type. So yes, we are going to attach with the VPC. So I'm just going to choose VPC, but also this demo is only for VPC specific, but in actual environment, you might need to attach to the VPN also, because in production like environment or in companies, we have our on-premise infra also. So in that case, you can choose the VPN also. But since we are working only into the cloud environment and also into our AWS environment, so I'm just going to choose the VPC. All right. Moving ahead, so now we need to define the VPC. So first attachment we are going to create is towards the VPC 1. So from the drop down, select the VPC 1, which is our test VPC 1, which we have created. So select the test VPC 1. And as soon as you select the test VPC 1, then it will show all the subnets. So here you can see we have only 1 subnet created, but in your case, it might be possible that you have a multiple subnet. So select all the possible subnet which you want to attach. Okay, so now we have selected the VPC and the subnet. The next thing which we need to do is create a transit gateway attachment. So click on this button, create transit gateway attachment. And here you can see our first attachment has been created. So if you take a look onto the diagram, so this is the transit gateway and this is the first attachment on the left hand side, which we have fixed it. Let's create it for VPC 2 also. So go back to your browser, create transit gateway attachment. I'll just copy the name so that I can rename it. So I'm just going to copy this name, go there and change it to 2 because it is going to be for VPC 2. Again, our transit gateway ID is same. We are having a single transit gateway. So I'm just going to choose same, and here we are going to choose VPC. Here we are going to choose VPC 2, and here we are going to select the subnets within that VPC. And tags, I'm just going to keep it default. click on create transit gateway. So now we have created for the VPC2 also, now the third one. So let's go back here, remove this filter, and here you can see 1 and 2 both are there. Let's create it for the third one. So paste the name, change it to 3, select the transit gateway which we have created, which is single, attachment type is VPC, VPC ID is going to be third, this is the subnet, and then click on create transit gateway attachment for third VPC. Remove it, this filter, and here you can see all the 3 attachment which we have just created. And again, in the diagram, you can see this is our transit gateway, and these 3 attachments we have created. Now our transit gateway is attached with all the VPCs. Before we go ahead, there is one concept which I would like to put your attention, because why it is different from a VPC peering when we are using the transit gateway, because VPC peering is also doing the same thing. It is also connecting the multiple VPCs. But there is a very good point about the transit gateway. In transit gateway, you need to create only single transit gateway, and it can handle multiple VPCs. But in VPC peering, here in the diagram, you can see here is the first VPC peering between 1 and 2 VPC, and there is another VPC peering which we need to create it for 2 and 3, because the peering between 1 and 2 cannot refer to the third VPC. So that's the drawback with our VPC peering. So the more VPC you have, then you need to create a multiple VPC peering. But if you take a look onto our transit gateway, then it is not the case. So here we are having a single transit gateway, and it is connecting to VPC1, VPC2, and VPC3. So that's why transit gateway are more efficient than the VPC peering. If you have a 2 or 3 VPCs, then VPC peering is fine. But if you have more than 10 or 50 VPCs, then I would recommend to use the transit gateway. Now what next? Now we have attached the transit gateway to VPC. The next thing which we need to do is we need to update the route table, so that our subnet knows like how to route the request to the transit gateway so that it can communicate with the other VPCs. So first of all, we are going to update the route table of our VPC1 or the VPC1 subnet. So let's go back to our AWS console and start modifying our route table. Here is my AWS console. Go to the home page. In the search box, type VPC, click on it. In the left navigation menu, click on route tables. And first of all, we are going to work on our test VPC1 and its attachment. So click on the route table ID over here of my VPC1. And here, these are the routes. So click on edit routes, click on add routes. Now this is critical. So go back to your diagram once again. And here you can see this is our test VPC1, and if I go further over here, then here we can see now we want to reach out to the VPC2. So if I take a previous slide, so the VPC2 has a IP range of 13.0.0.0/16. So we want to reach out to this destination ID. But to reach out to that destination ID, we also need an attachment, and that attachment we have already created with our transit gateway. So we will use this attachment of VPC1 of our transit gateway and with the destination IP of my test VPC. So let's go back to our routes over here, and here type 13.0.0.0/16. This is the IP range of my VPC2, and here in the transit gateway, here you will find the transit gateway attachment VPC1. Click on save changes. Okay, so now we have fixed the connectivity between the VPC1 and VPC2 by creating a route. Now we need to fix the connectivity between the VPC1 and VPC3. So here again we need to know the IP range of the VPC, so that is starting with the 14, and we will again use the same attachment, which is the first attachment. This attachment we are gonna use. So again, go back to our route table of my test VPC1. Click on edit routes over here, click on add routes, and here I'm just gonna choose 14.0.0.0, and after that I'm just gonna choose 16, and here I'm just gonna choose the internet transit gateway, and here I'm just gonna choose the attachment VPC1 and click on save changes. And now we have the connectivity between our VPC2 and VPC3 with our VPC1. Now let's take a look onto the diagram once again. It should be this one. So here now we need to work on the VPC2 route. So now we need to fix the connectivity using the attachment 2 with our VPC1 and VPC3. So go back to your routes here, and go to route table and open the VPC2 route table. So click on it, click on edit routes. So here click on add routes. So here I'm just going to choose the VPC1. So this is the IP range of my VPC1. Select the transit gateway, and here you will find the transit gateway attachment 2, which we have created for our VPC2. Add one more route, and here I will use 14. And here again I will choose the transit gateway, so that is transit gateway, and here will be VPC2, and click on save changes. So now we have fixed the connectivity between, if we take a look, so we have fixed the connectivity between from 2 to 1 and 3. So now we need to fix the connectivity between the 3, so that 3 can communicate with our 2 and 1 also. So any instance which is running inside the VPC3 will be able to talk to EC2 and VPC2 and VPC1. So go back to our AWS console, click on route table, go to the route table 3 of our VPC3. Click on edit routes. So click on add routes. So I will choose the destination of my VPC1 IP range and 16, and here I will choose the transit gateway, and that will be transit gateway attachment 3. So that's for VPC1 connectivity, and here will be for VPC2. It should be 16, and here I will try transit gateway, and here I will use the 3. Click on save changes. Alright, so let's take a look onto the diagram. So here you can see we have pretty much set up the whole transit gateway and whole infra with our EC2 instances and updated all the route tables. Now what we will do, now we will log in, or we will SSH into each EC2 instance from VPC1, VPC2 and VPC3, and we will try to curl the pages of our Apache homepage of other EC2 instances. So let's switch back to terminal and try to SSH into our EC2 instances. Now we need to connect to EC2 instance, and for that go to our homepage of our AWS console, and here type EC2. We just need to find the instruction how to connect it. So click on instances running. Let's take a test VPC1 EC2 instance. Click on connect. And here you can see this is the key which we have created. So we have created this key for EC2 instance running in VPC1, but we have also created the other keys also. Those are ending with the 2 and 3. So now we need to change the mode of our keys. So right now these keys are into read and write permission, but we need to make it read only. So just copy this command from here and go to terminal. So here you can see I have divided my terminal into 3 sections. So this is going to be for VPC1, VPC2 and VPC3. So let's start. First of all, let's check I have the keys or not. So here you can see I have all the 3 keys. So this is the 1, 2 and 3 key. Or maybe I can run simply just ls command to view it. So here you can see all the 3 keys I have right now. So I'll clear it. So first of all, I need to do chmod 400, and then I need to put the keys over here. So VPC1 changed chmod. I'll just use the same thing, and I'll just put it 2. Okay, no key. So I'll just run the ls command once again. And I can see that command. So I'm just going to rerun the command for VPC2. I can see that it's there. I have changed it. So I'm just going to run it for the 3rd key also. So 400, and I'm just going to choose the 3rd one also. It is this one over here. All right, I'm just going to clear it, and I'm just going to run the command lslart just to verify. So right now I can see it's a read only. This is only read only, and this is also read only. So we have changed the read only permission for all the 3 keys. So I'm just going to clear it. Okay, so that's been done. The next thing which we need to do is we need to SSH into our EC2 instances. So this is going to be our VPC1 EC2 instance. So just copy this command and go to your terminal and paste it and enter. And type yes over here, and here you can see I'll clear it, and here you can see this is the IP that is starting from 12. So this is our VPC1 EC2 instance. Let's open another terminal, and here we are going to use the EC2 instance from VPC2. So again, go back to dashboard, Go to instances, select 2 and go to connect. Copy this SSH command. We have already performed the chmod change permission, so that you don't need to do. Go over here, paste the command, type yes over here, clear it, and here you can see that is 13. That is from our VPC 2. And now it is our VPC third. So go back to our EC2 instances, click on third VPC, and here click on connect. Copy this command from here and paste it over here. Type yes. I'll clear it, and here you can see the IP which is starting from 14. So this is VPC 1, 12. This is VPC 2, that is 13, and this is VPC 3, which is starting from 14. Just to keep the thing simple, what I'll do, I'll just open all the instances into the new tab. So I'll start with the 1, 2, and 3. I need the private IP address of all those instances. So here you can see this is our VPC 1, this is our VPC 2, and this is our VPC 3. So let's start from our VPC 2 private IP, go to our, now we are into the VPC 1 EC2 instance ID. So I'm just going to use curl command to access the VPC 2 Apache page and hit enter. And here you can see I'm able to access the EC2 instance Apache from my VPC 2. And similarly, I'll try to access the Apache instance running inside the EC2 of my VPC 3. So go back over here and copy the private IP of my EC2 instance running into VPC 3, and I'll just use the curl command and paste it over here. And here you can see we are able to access it. So from EC2 instance from VPC 1, we are able to access the VPC 2 as well as VPC 3. And similarly, if I run the curl command from VPC 2, and now I will try to access, this is our VPC 1, and copy the private IP address. And here you can see we are able to access it. And similarly, I can access the VPC 3 from VPC 2. So this is the private IP address of my VPC 3 EC2 instance. And here you can see I'm able to access it. So this is VPC 2, and this is our VPC 1, and this is our VPC 3. Similarly, I'll just do the curl, and now I will try to access the, first of all, I'll copy this IP address. So this is VPC 1, I'm trying to access it. So that is also working from VPC 3. And now I will try to access the VPC 2 from VPC 3. So I'll just use curl, and then I'll just use the private IP address of my VPC 2. And here you can see. So now all our VPCs are connected, and now we are able to communicate between all the VPCs. So I hope you like this session on how to set up the transit gateway and how to enable the communication between all the VPC using the transit gateway and a transit gateway attachment. And if you are interested into the similar content, then considering following this channel. And also for you, I have started the members only video. Those are only for the YouTube members which are into my YouTube members family. So here I will be uploading some of the specific or in-depth session using Terraform and AWS for those members. So if you are interested into learning more in-depth concept, and considering to be a member of this particular YouTube channel, and you will also get an access to the Discord group as well. So see you into the next session of DevOps and AWS. Till then, take care and bye bye.